Welcome back to the line. In 2008, Santa Fe voters overwhelmingly approved a charter amendment to institute a ranked choice voting scheme pending the acquisition of technology that was both affordable and available. Now that it is, a judge has ruled that it must be used for the March 2018 elections as provided for in that city charter. And Julianne, the Santa Fe Reporter, just published an in-depth article written by our former colleague Matt Grubbs about this ruling. Let's back up here a quick sec. Give us an overview of this issue had to go before a judge. What's the issue here? How does this work? And what can we expect?
I think the best place to start is with the city charter. Santa Fe's, home rule charter city. And back in 2008, there was a election where there were a number of changes to the city charter that were approved by voters. There was a charter review commission that did a lot of work for years before that election. They recommended that ranked choice voting be on the ballot. The voters overwhelmingly said, yes, we want to do this, as you mentioned earlier. And that was in 2008. So now it's 2017, right, and it still hasn't happened yet. Mostly the reason why it hadn't happened is because the voting machine companies that work in tandem and are certified by the Secretary of State, they weren't really ready. They didn't have a system that the Secretary of State felt comfortable with. But all of that changed this summer. So in June and July, the city of Santa Fe looked at the scenario and said, we're nervous. The voting machines are getting close to being ready, but we're not quite confident in this, and we think the voters can't learn how to do it in time, and so we're going to vote to keep the status quo, regular old system. Then, and at the time, they heard testimony that the Secretary of State was expecting to certify those machines before the fall, and which happened. In September, the Secretary of State certified the machines, and so at that point, the city could have gone back and said, okay, let's do this, let's execute the will of the voters, the election's coming. Candidates were just in September getting started gathering petitions, signatures that are required to be on the ballot. So there are a group of voters in Santa Fe, and some of them are part of an organization, an advocacy organization called Fair Vote New Mexico. They came together and filed, they asked originally the Supreme Court for an injunction ordering the city to use the system. The Supreme Court declined to grant that injunction. And so that group then filed the same case in district court. And so we had a whole bunch of judges, that, as what happens with government, the judges get tossed out because they have relationships or conflicts of interest. And so the judge that has the case now, Dave Thompson, came down in favor of the voters who said, we want this. Right. And they had two hearings that were quite lengthy, almost the whole day. And just on Wednesday morning, Judge Thompson said the city has to use the system. So now they're in a bit of emergency mode. There's going to be a city council meeting on December 3rd. That meeting is going to start with an executive session. So the city councilors could decide to keep fighting this in court, keep everyone in limbo, not do the work to put the system in place. They could make that decision, or they could decide we're not going to appeal, we're just going to do what the judge has said, or some hybrid of those. They could do ranked choice voting for this coming up election and then take it up with the courts again to have kind of a trial run.
What's interesting about sort of hovering over all this is, Tom, the idea that Santa Fe is going to be electing its first full-time mayor. And you've got a lot of candidates running, and so this almost seems like the perfect time to do this. And the Secretary of State says, I see no problem, we should be doing this. Can you see any reason for a delay here? I mean, we're talking about a March vote. Early voting, obviously much earlier than then, that day in March. But
having never run an election, I can't say, oh yeah, they've got plenty of time. Right. I'm sure there's a clerk somewhere going, oh my gosh. Yes. And but from the optics of it, I would say that you have 4 months, give or take, to really kind of get ready. It's an issue of technology, and is technology.
Is it the issue of technology, or is the issue the voter and their understanding about how to do this?
I think the voter will be able to pick it up. Yeah, the voter is not my concern. I think the story election night is not over confused voters. That'll be leading up to election night. But there's a lot of really helpful videos and things. Folks who want to get involved will learn how to place a vote.
Sure.
And I think that the election night story will actually be more focused on, here's a new system that actually worked. And there will be some controversy, I'm sure, at some point, but somebody who says, well, one person, one vote, you're violating that whole thing. But from a user's perspective, I'm kind of glad to see that they're mixing it up a little bit. We have something new, something to kind of reinvigorate the public's role in the whole election process.
That's right. Andy, I want you to pick up on that. Again, there's some people who've been waiting, even here in Albuquerque, who are dying to have ranked choice voting. It's out there, this idea that folks want to do this. What's your sense of that?
Somebody who has had to cover 2 elections in Albuquerque, I would be happy to cover a ranked choice election here.
Right.
You know, you basically put it all together, and I think another term that they use is instant runoff. I think going off of what Tom just said, I think that you just kind of do it right then. You know, with the argument of one person, one vote, you say, okay, well, you still get voters here still had 2 votes technically. You know, it's just it's combining the second runoff election with the first one and just kind of getting it done with. I think that I think places like Albuquerque and Santa Fe who don't have primaries are in need of something to eliminate that costly second election.
That's a good point right there. Javier Gonzalez, mayor of Santa Fe, currently has set aside or asking to set aside $300,000 for training we talked about for the voters. And there was an interesting point made in one of the articles that, look, a lot of folks just don't even pay attention to this stuff until like 2 weeks before the vote. So, you know, you got to really kind of bring this education on hard, leading right up to the election, right up to the wall of it, literally. Your sense of it, voters will be able to get their arms around this in Santa Fe? It just doesn't seem that complicated, but you know how these things go. It's always tricky the first time around.
Having been involved in election details, running an election in 2008, helping with the absentee ballot process here, counting that for many years with Maggie as clerk, it's very complicated. Anytime you initiate a new system, in terms of voting, it's complicated for the staff. I think the voters will be able to figure it out. I agree with Tom on that part. But in terms of how short time, we're very close at this point for the people who actually do the work, because they have to be clear on what they're going to use, what technology they're going to use. They have to have the contracts signed, they have to have facilities, and there's a timeline for all of that, right? And we're right there, we're right up against it. And so, you know, this decision about whether they're going to appeal or not is really going to be important for this next meeting.
Right.
And if they decide to just go with it, then, you know, all hands on deck to get it done. But I think it's a good move because I think it's, in the long term, cost effective. You do avoid a very costly second election, and it's helpful for voters to just know sort of where they are at that point.
Right.
And hopefully it helps. I mean, we just have so many people who are running. And I should say, you know, full disclosure, one of the people running, Peter Ives, for mayor in Santa Fe, is married to the managing partner at my law firm, Patricia Salazar Ives. So,
Appreciate that.
you know, our firm is
Gotta do it. I
aware
appreciate
of
that.
the whole thing.
You know, Julianne, you know, we got some interesting names running for mayor, certainly. You know, some seasoned veterans, some newcomers, some, you know what I mean? So the idea that, you know, you could almost pitch to the voter, I may not be your top vote, but why don't you think about me as your second vote? Do you know what I mean? That's an interesting angle
It's
of
also
attack.
interesting that 3 of the people running for mayor, Peter Ives being one of them, are sitting city councilors. So they voted on, you know, those decisions in June and July, and they are going to vote again in private, or develop consensus in private.
The concept of the litigation they have to talk about in private, but their actual votes have to be in public.
But I think that they, you know, in general, they come out and make their public vote after they've reached.
Are any of these
the-
folks having heartburn about this system? I haven't.
Well, every candidate that I've talked to, even the candidates who voted against pushing the system as city councilors, none of them are saying we don't want this, we're scared of this. I think that people are really reluctant to guess whether ranked choice voting helps or hurts them as a candidate. But most of the candidates I've spoken with are also really ready to embrace that education role. They know that, you know, 3 candidates for District 2, 3 candidates for District 4, and 5 candidates for mayor. All those people are going to be out educating voters about ranked choice.
Right.
So
there's that.
you know,
right,
one thing I
please.
will add is this isn't completely new to New Mexico. Anybody who's involved in party politics uses this sort of system. It's a little bit different. There's no technology, but ranked voting is something that the parties use to elect their delegates to the pre-primary convention. to elect their delegates to the national convention. They use the system, and there's a lot of interesting gamesmanship that does happen.
Yes.
Having at one point in Arizona run for delegate, but I've seen it happen here too when we're trying to gather delegates for various candidates. Is people do that? They say, I know who you're voting for first, but can you consider me for your second vote? And more often than not, those people are very effective at getting on because they are somebody's second vote.
Right.
Of course, in that situation, you have multiple roles to fill, so it isn't just one seat. But I still think there's an element of that goes into
This
it.
should be fascinating. I'm curious to see how this goes because, Albuquerque, we can do this. This would be great for here as well. Now, we'll have to end that there.